Ms. Legalista here. Welcome to a live, and I have not done a live video, a live, whatever we want to call it, on YouTube since July of this year. So it has been a really long time. Now, of course, I have gone live on Facebook and some other places, I guess, but not here. But I want to jump into talking about Fifth Third Bank. Some of the recent videos that I did, and you can go to the website and take a look at them. One of them had to do with Fifth Third Bank and a customer who had been scammed out of almost $1 million. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money to lose. She kept going back to her bank, making these wire transfers. She kept going back, getting cashier's checks for large sums of money, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. You can imagine, of course, if she got up to 1 million, of course, she was pulling out a lot of money. And when they went back to the bank to ask them, well, hey, why did you let her keep doing this? Now, first of all, she's an adult woman, perfect mind, so there's nothing going on there. So really and truly, the bank really couldn't say, no, we're not going to do this for you. Okay. It's her money. But they did come back and ask the bank, well, what kind of checking into this did you do? Did you ask her questions? Like you saw this going on? Did it not look weird to you? Did you not feel like you needed to say something? And they said they asked her questions and she answered the questions and basically she passed the test. So I don't know what kind of questions they were asking because this woman got scammed out of almost $1 million. So that's a lot of money to not have and to, then be in this predicament where you're having to sell your house, you're having to have a garage sale to come up with money because now you've got these loans out there, you've got to pay that money back, you took investments out, now you got to pay taxes on that. So you're like really short of cash. And this is where she was. But the bank that she was at was Fifth Third Bank. And let me pull it up because I want to talk about some of the information that they have on their website. But here's the thing, when these things are happening, people are not going to their website and saying, hey, let me sit down, let me go to my website and see all of this wonderful information that they have about bank fraud and scams and identity theft. And let me read the frequently asked questions to see if my scenario is listed. Who takes the time to go through and do all of that? A lot of people don't even go to their website for their bank like this. They go to check out and make sure the money's still there, how much money they have in the account. Has a transaction gone through or not? Did somebody deposit something? Is there something weird going on? They don't really look into all of this other stuff. So even though there's all of this information up here, people aren't really looking at it. And even when they go to the bank, I think that's a missed opportunity right there. Like that's the place. If you're not going to go on the web and look at all this stuff, then when you're at the bank and you're in there getting that, I don't know, 10th cashier's check or that 10th wire, why not run that scenario by the bank teller or say, hey, is there a person in here that I can have a conversation with about my account? And then you can have some privacy and go in the back and then actually talk about what's going on and say, hey, I got this letter like Chester did in a video that I recorded earlier today. I got this letter from the US Treasury that said, hey, you've you're being criminally charged. That's what it said in the first paragraph. And then the second paragraph, it said that he wasn't and that they knew it wasn't him. So the whole thing was just a mess. The letter itself was just a mess. But ask these people at the bank. And I think a lot of times people just feel very vulnerable and they feel like they're just afraid to let people know that they have some questions and that maybe they aren't smart, maybe they're too gullible, maybe they don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't know a lot of the reasons. But let's take a look at what is going on with Fifth Third Bank and what they have on their website. What they don't have up here, the piece about Zelle. I definitely want to talk about Zelle because Zelle, there's been lots of fraud associated with Zelle. And then they have Of course, they have something up here that they're trying to sell you some identity theft protection or something like that. We're gonna talk about that too, because I don't know if these things are things that you need to buy, but you definitely need to research them before you even purchase those products because they may not be giving you the protection that you think you are getting or the protection that you need in terms of, I don't know. It's not that much money. I did take a look at them. It's like $7 a month or $10 a month. But what does it cover, right? What does it cover? So identity theft, I think most people are really already familiar with that. Happens when someone assumes another person's personal identification. They usually are able to get your social security number, name, or financial information. And then, maybe they go open other accounts, get loans in your name, get credit cards in your name, then buy stuff, get money, and leave you on the hook for it. Now you have to prove that it wasn't you who did all of this. So I think we're pretty much up to speed on how that works. The one that's missing here is not necessarily your identity theft, but people who are out there impersonating other people. So a lot of times what happens is the bank will supposedly call you or supposedly email you or supposedly text you, and that person, the bank teller or the bank officer, is being impersonated by a fraudster, a scammer, and that's not really them. So not only do you have to worry about people stealing your information and pretending to be you and going out there and getting loans and credit cards and things in your name, but you also have to be worried about people who are stealing the identity of bank people, impersonating them, being imposters, because you never know. And banks tell you all the time they're never going to ask for your password. They're never going to ask for your social security number, any of that information over the phone or in an email. So stop giving it to people when they call and ask for it. Get in the car, go over to the bank, and have a conversation with them face to face. That is the best way to go about this. So they have this information here. How do I identify and avoid attacks? Let me tell you, this is a new rule here. There is going to come a point in time when you are probably going to be scammed. You are going to be subject to some fraud. It is now not a matter of if it's going to happen to you, it's a matter of when. Even if you do everything right, because you have accounts in other places like banks, because you share your financial information maybe with your medical provider or some of these other accounts that you have so the bills can get paid. If those places get hacked, that's out of your control. You don't have any control over that. So even if you do everything right, fraudsters and scammers can be using third parties to get your information. So that's why I say the new rule now is, hey, that first part where it's not a matter of if you're going to get scammed or experience fraud, it's a matter of when. And so, what I'm telling people now is to assume what you're dealing with is a scam or fraud until it's proven otherwise. And so, you need to jump through the hoops to verify these things. But they've got a list of different kinds of they call fraudster schemes, whatever you want to call it. And the only thing is, it's not very clear. They just have these definitions. And I don't know that people really understand what some of these things are if you just read it. So the first one is they're saying these are some common types of attacks. The first one is phishing. This is don't fall for fish bait. Something fishy arrived in your inbox. Phishing emails are a common way that fraudsters try to get unsuspecting recipients to share personal and financial information. Avoid the bait, learn how to spot it. So they've got some information there that you can check on it, but it's helpful to understand what the email looks like. Usually it's an email that may look like an account or party that you're used to dealing with. And they're asking you for information or telling you, well, click on this link. And before you know it, you've clicked on a link and then it's asking you for information. You're putting in your password because you think that that is a legitimate link. And it turns out it's not. And so now they've fished and you have taken the bait and you're putting in your information. So I just got an email earlier today from a third party company that I do some work with. And there was a space for me to click on something. It was saying, hey, can you check on this with your account? Well, what did I just say? I'm no longer assuming that that is from a correct party, from that is from a legitimate source. So I close that out, go to my account, open up another tab, and go to my account directly. Like, don't even go through their email. Like, even if it's the party that you think it is, even if you're looking at the domain and the domain matches, there is so much that they can do now with technology. Like, don't even do it. Go directly to your account. So phishing, that's what phishing looks like. Smishing, you guys, I know you're like, who comes up with these terms? So usually that has to do with SMS messaging, which is texting. They're sending you a text on your phone, which is sort of doing the same thing. It has a link and it's telling you, you know how sometimes you get those text messages and it might say something like your uh, I don't know, Cash App account or PayPal account or Zelle account or something from your bank and click here. And it's not really them. This is another party phishing trying to get your information. They're just doing it via a text message. Okay. That's what smishing is. So it's the same sort of thing. And as you see there, it says like phishing emails fraudsters will use SMS messaging. It's the same thing. Then you have malware attacks, which is, it appears on your computer. It appears your computer has a virus. So people fall for this one too. They go to these websites and all of a sudden there's a pop-up or something on their computer that says, oh, you're infected. You're infected. You have a virus. Click here so that we can fix this now. And of course, there's a sense of urgency that you have. Like, I can't wait. I have to click on it right now. Otherwise, my whole computer might get infected. I might not be able to get back in. I've got important information up here that I can't have somebody hack or share because then maybe it's work or maybe you have a business and you have other people's information on your computer. And so now all of a sudden you're feeling very, under pressure because this thing has popped up on your computer and you're not sure what to do. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I got to do something. I got to do something. It says I have some sort of computer virus. Well, it's not real. It's fake. Okay. It's fake. It says a window will pop up prompting you to call a number to get your computer fixed. Don't call. Don't call. In this scheme, the fraudster will ask for payment information and even take over your computer to fix the problem. In reality, the criminal is accessing your account information, opening the door for theft in the form of counterfeit checks, ACH transactions, and more. Because they're going to go in your laptop, get as much information as they can, and then the next thing you know, you'll be checking your bank account and money will be gone. So that's why you want to watch out for these things that pop up on your computer. Ransomware attacks. You don't hear as much about that because usually they're going after businesses, not as much with just regular people. Because it's just like, why go after a regular person who's what going to pay me how much? They may only have what family photos, maybe some work stuff on their computer. They're probably not going to pay a $50,000 ransom for you to get off of their computer. Whereas if you go after a major corporation or a large business that has some back doors where you've been able to hack in and get in, So it says ransomware is a type of malware that can take over your computer and your information, and your system may become unusable while the hacker prompts you for payment. It's like a hijack. They hijack your computer and you can't do anything about it. They essentially lock you out and they say, oh, until you pay us and until you pay us this amount, you can't get back in. And so think about all of the things that you may have on your computer, access to certain accounts, your own financial information, because that's what you're using your computer. You may have saved passwords and things of that nature on your computer, and now you can't get any of this stuff. And it may be possible that this other person can get all of it. So it's like a double whammy. It's just awful. Data breaches. Okay. There've been so many of these this year. I've gotten so many letters. I think I still have a couple. It's like, "Your information's been exposed. Your information's been exposed." You don't even know what has been exposed because it's not like they know for sure. They make very broad statements about information that may be released. But again, some of these are not even things that you can do anything about. If somebody else that you deal with, if your medical care provider gets hacked and has a data breach, well, that's really outside of your hands. So it's interesting some of the things that they have on this list on Fifth Third Bank because there's not really anything you can do about it. But when you get that letter and they tell you, hey, you can sign up for credit monitoring and all that, we'll go ahead and do it. Theft. Okay, so literally, I had so many trash bags full of shredded paper that we actually had to put some of those bags in my neighbor's trash bin today because I shred. I shred. I have a shredder. And as a matter of fact, the shredder gets so hot that it stops working and you have to wait for the red light to go off and it cool down before you can start back shredding again. So that's how much shredding I have been doing the last few days, trying to just clean up for the fall. So, yeah, people still do this. It says fraudsters will go as far as going through your trash to look for sensitive information they can use. So, you people who are just throwing your bank statements away, just putting them in the trash, that is if you are still getting them in the mail, because a lot of people are not. They're just like, nope, just send me an email electronically. And then the last one is self-exposure, is you sharing information with a scammer, and you may not even know it's a scammer. So let me give you this example because I'm going to tweak it a little bit, something I read about recently. An attorney who had a prospective client reach out to her to say, hey, I'm going to be purchasing a property and I'm tweaking the story a little bit. I'm going to be purchasing a property and you know, can you handle the funds transfer for me? And of course, they had a few virtual or phone call conversations. And so the attorney gives this other party her account information so that the funds can be wired to her. And the next thing you know, this person's accessing her account and taking money. So you have to be careful about who you're giving this information to. Even when you're signing up with other companies that you think are legitimate, they might not be legitimate at all. So there you go. Let's see what else they have up here. What do I do if my account is exposed? Yeah, close the exposed account. That'd be the first thing right there. And of course, Fifth Third Bank says, hey, consider placing a fraud alert on your credit and monitor your account with Fifth Third Identity Alert Solutions. Now, apparently, they have some free stuff that they're selling, and then they have some free stuff that they're giving away, I guess. And then they have some stuff that they're selling to their customers. Account takeover. Now, what is an account takeover? Definitely, I've seen this happen too. Exposure to your account or personal information can lead to an account takeover. This is somebody else going in. And this was like the example I just gave you of the guy who took over the attorney's account, going in and making transactions happen as if you are the owner of the account. This is an account takeover can result in unauthorized transactions, including wire, ACH, and other payment types. How can you prevent it? Again, who are you sharing your stuff with? Who are you sharing your stuff with? Protect your online banking credentials. See that part right here? This part where it says Fifth Third will not ask you for this information. Your login, username, and password. Like you should never be giving that to anybody. No one. Never give that to anybody. Change your passwords regularly. I've heard people in the industry say they don't keep, they don't keep their passwords on their computer. They keep them on like pen and paper, write them down somewhere and they change them frequently. Can you imagine? Think about all the passwords you have and then you're writing all of them down and then you're changing them weekly, monthly? Oh my gosh, that's a lot. But that is what the recommendation is. So set up online and mobile banking alerts. So yeah, you can set up thresholds. That's something I've done. You can set up thresholds where, hey, Every time there is a transaction that occurs that is above a certain amount, you get a text message. It'll pop up on your phone so you can see it and be like, "Oh, okay, I know what that is," and go back to living your wonderful life. And you can also get it via email. So check with your bank to see what their process is and definitely go ahead and have those alerts in place. I had one client who was in a situation where something happened and he got noticed real fast because it popped up on his phone. So, yeah, better to find out sooner because then you can maybe get the money back. Maybe. All right. Ensure your computer or login device is secure. Make sure you're using antivirus protection. Be careful about going into public spaces and using public Wi Fi. And you already know that. Monitor bank activity and statements. So if you report these things, sometimes you can keep your liability low and maybe the bank will reimburse and put the money back into your account. But you can't be going like, 4 and 5 months because you didn't check your account and then expect the bank to put $10,000 back because you just never bothered to look. I actually did a video about one lady who she didn't check her account very often. And all his money was gone and she didn't know until like months later. And the bank is just like, no, we have a timeline in place and you didn't meet it. All right, move to digital payments. I mean, look, there are going to be advantages and disadvantages to all of these things. This one that says eliminate check interception risk by using digital based payments. Okay, so then you're just setting yourself up for the hackers. So I don't want you to think that there's a no win situation here. It's just that it's going to be difficult whichever way that you use it, but there's some advantages and disadvantages if you're using paper checks. You got to worry about people stealing stuff out of your mailbox. You got to worry about shredding that stuff when you're done. If you're using electronic, where you're getting emails and that sort of stuff, you got to make sure you're having good passwords in place and making sure you're not sharing any and everything with everybody out there in the world. And you got to stay on top of that too. So there's going to be work on both sides. It's not like this is a set it and forget it type of meal because it's not. Don't click on suspicious links. Well, in this case, here's the thing. Sometimes it's not so obvious that these links are suspicious. And I tell people now, there are companies that are working really hard to look legitimate. They set up whole websites. They have the addresses matching. They've gotten better now so that their grammar doesn't look as bad. The spelling's not off. The punctuation is close to being right. And if you're just skimming through, you won't catch those errors because there are less of them now. And unless you're really paying attention, you might not catch it. And so what used to be really suspicious is not suspicious anymore or less so. So now you got to work even harder. Like I said, they don't look suspicious anymore. They're getting better at the fraud that they're engaging in. What is check fraud? Everybody was talking about that whole TikTok check fraud thing. I cannot believe that people actually thought that they were going to get away with that, where, I'm just going to write a check for money that I don't have and think that that's not a crime. Like you're intentionally trying to get money that doesn't belong to you. In what world do you think that that is not wrong? I don't know. Makes no sense to me. All right, so what is check fraud? You've got counterfeit checks, fraudulent checks that are created and negotiated. You've got forged. Maker fraud is when a valid blank check is intercepted or stolen, and they'll use the valid check and try to get money with that. You have altered checks. I did a video on this where they were washing the checks. I want to say it was with like some sort of car oil, brake fluid, motor oil, something. I don't even remember now. But yeah, that's what they were using to wash the checks. Then you have forged endorsements where you've got a valid check that's been filled out and the fraudster will pose as the person who's supposed to be getting the money. So they change all of that. But so many people now are using things electronically that I think it's harder for that to happen because not as many people are using checks anymore. And some places don't even take checks anymore. And some places don't even take cash anymore. Some places really only take cards, which is interesting given the transaction fees. And I actually was at a place recently where I was getting ready to pay and I used cash, and the person was like, "Oh, you get a discount if you use cash." I was like, "Oh, well, thank you very much." All right. So next we have a list of some of these scams on their website. You guys, like, this is the shortest list ever. Do not read this list and think, "Oh, okay, so these are the scams I need to know about." No, no. They come up with scams like every day. I don't know. I think people are just sitting around saying, "What kind of scam can I think of next?" Like the TikTok scam, okay? Like, who does that? So we got the bank imposter scam, fraudsters impersonating bank employees and saying, "Hey, give me your username and password." And then they have access to your account. Just never share that information. Never, never, never share. And those one-time passwords that pop up on your phone when you're getting verification, you're not supposed to share those either. So remember, bank employees are never going to ask for your username and password. Never going to ask for it. And I think what has tripped people up, I'll tell you what has tripped people up, it's when that bank imposter sounds legitimate because they already have information about your account. And I'm trying to think, I think this might have been Chester who was doing the video and that I was doing the video about. And he said that they had like 40 years of financial information about him. Like they knew cards that he had had way back then that I guess he didn't have anymore. And so because they came with all of this information, and I did a video on somebody else, very same thing, because the imposter had all of this information that the person should not have had, they felt like it had to be a real bank employee. So if a bank employee calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm looking at your account. There's some information here that looks fraudulent, some transactions that look fraudulent. We just want to go over them with you. We see here that you have this account that you normally pay, this account that you normally pay, and this account that you normally pay." And you start thinking, "Oh, okay, well, I must be talking to a bank employee because how else would they know that?" Well, if you think about it, there's some easy ways to find out some of these things. So, say for instance, you use a certain website. This- you use a certain website. Well, some of these website templates look a certain way. And sometimes people leave the information on the bottom so that if you go to their website, you can actually see where they're using their website from. And so, what they've done is they've done their research and they said, "Oh, okay, so I see they use this. I see they use this. Maybe they've gone to your social media account. They see what kind of vehicle you have. And so now they've got some information about you so that when they make that bank impersonation call, they're able to throw some things out there that sound familiar to you because you're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I do have that car. Yeah, I do business with them." Yeah, because they did their research, they did their homework, and that's what has caught people off guard. It's like, okay, I know not to give people who are calling my information, but when those people call and they're telling me already, "Well, here's some transactions that we normally see come out of your account, and I just need you to give me your username and password so that we can double check." So, that's what has thrown some people. All right, so that's what's not up here. Like that's what I think is missing. Some of this is it's like a one sentence kind of thing. They have one sentence up here. The fraudster impersonates a bank employee, but they don't really tell you what this looks like when somebody calls. Like here is what this looks like. You guys, it is not this sort of person on the phone that sounds like they're, in another country and that maybe English is not their first language. And you can hear that they're in a room with other people making phone calls to, some things that might tip you off. It's not that. They're working much harder now to make sure that they sound like they are legitimately from your bank. All right. So then we have like the romance scams. Um, And I guess oh, somebody asked some questions. I was so caught into what I was saying. I didn't even see the questions up here. So John the Professional says, "Do you know if a PC is more susceptible to attack than an Apple computer?" Sorry, John. I don't know. And then Melinda says, "Hello from Massachusetts." Hi, Melinda. Glad to join. Thank you for hanging out with me. Yeah. So yes, and I'm in North Carolina. But yeah, so let me talk about romance scams because this is like the biggie. This is truly, truly, truly the biggie. If I have to talk about people who are susceptible to this, I can give you, a checklist of what people are looking for. So generally, people who are going to be susceptible to romance scams, usually it's somebody who's not already in a relationship. Maybe their partner has passed away, they may be older, and so they're not out in the community as much anymore, and they're not meeting people out and about in the real world. So now they're spending more time online trying to find friends and new relationships. 3, their family members are not usually as close by, so they're not interacting with them and they're not having as many conversations with them about this new person they met. And those family members are not hearing some things that might sound like red flags to them. And usually the people are older, they're retired, they have already paid off their home. And so they tend to have some assets there, some money saved up. So the romance scammers are not really going to be looking for young people who, just graduated and that sort of thing. Cause it's like they haven't had a chance to really work and have a long employment history and start to save a lot of money in most cases. Not yet. Sure, there's some young people who start off with a lot of money, but most of the time they haven't worked long enough yet. So those are the victims that they're going after. They got a playbook, I'm telling you. Those are the victims that they're going after. And it says, so let me see, let's go over what it says here. It says victims provide receive or expect to receive money related to a relationship they believe they are in with someone that they met typically online. So again, let me just tell you, that is the worst sentence ever. Like that is not helpful, Fifth Third Bank. Can you go back? Can you just have somebody go through your site and really put some information up here that could be helpful to people? Because that one liner, that is almost worthless. That does not really help people understand what is going on and what it really looks like. It's just not helpful. And I just told you, like, here's the playbook. This is the kind of person that they're looking for. Like, that's the information they should have up here. If you fit this, understand that people are targeting you. Like, that's what it should say. And then if you go to, I want to say the FBI has this on their website. What they'll do is they'll meet with you virtually, right? It says typically online, talking about these romance scammers, and they'll tell you that they're in another country. They work in the construction industry, or maybe they're in the military, or maybe they're in international, like property development or real estate management or something like that, or even international finance. So they're in a place where they're starting something new or they're doing something and they don't really have a whole lot of access to Wi-Fi. And so it's really hard for them to maybe Zoom or do a FaceTime or even come back to the United States. So they have all of these reasons on why you never get to see their face. The only thing you get to see is that fake picture on that Mingle website or whatever it is where you met them. And it's not even a picture of them. So one of the first things you can do, and I need to do a video on this, and that is where you take the picture and do a reverse search on the image. And I was looking at a video earlier today. It was a BBC reporter who a scammer tried to come after him, and the woman sent him all of these pictures. Well, one of the first things he did was to do this reverse image search, and he found the real woman who that actually was, and it was not the scammer. The scammer was using a real person's pictures. It would be like if someone went to my Facebook account and took all of these pictures of me and then posted it on one of these sites where you meet people and used those pictures to say that that was what they look like. And some of this has been associated with trafficking and that sort of thing. But a lot of times that's what's going on. These people are in other places. They claim that they can't see you in person. They target older people, people with money, people who, aren't in a relationship and are looking to find love and to find someone. And they start off by, really jumping hard into the relationship, telling you, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're hitting it off like this. Oh my gosh, I think I'm falling in love and I know that this is quick. I know this is fast, but here I am and I want to be with you. And too bad I'm in another country," and all of this kind of stuff. Like really, 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 really fast. Okay. And then before you know it, it's, well, something happened and I need to borrow some money. And I know, I don't really want to do this. I don't really want to ask, but they go ahead and they ask for usually a small amount of money, a small amount of money. They start small. And over time, they'll come back and they'll ask for a little bit more. Or they'll even tell you, here's the other thing, or they'll tell you, hey, I am investing and let me share some information with you about it. And here's how much money I'm making. And they'll show you screenshots and all of that. All of this stuff is false. All of this stuff is fake. Okay. And that's what these romance scams really look like. And so this is why I'm mad at Fifth Third Bank, because they put this up here, but they don't really tell you what the scam looks like. They just say victims provide, receive, or expect to receive money related to a relationship. That's it. Like, but that's not how the scam, I mean, it doesn't really provide enough information for you to be able to understand when you might be a victim of a romance scam. And then we have online sales scams. Victims look has to do with an online sale, right? A person will typically give out their login or bank account information, believing that it's an appropriate way to conduct transactions. Really, Fifth Third? Can you put some more information there? Like, tell people what they should be using. Tell people how to do transactions in a safe and secure manner. In a safe and secure manner. And let me tell you how bold people have gotten now. They are now telling people that they will come to their home. They will come to their house. And then at that point, it's, I know where you live. I know who lives there with you. I know what kind of vehicle you have. They're doing research on people. So you have to find a better way to, and usually it's like a cash platform like Cash App or something like that. But even then, there's no guarantee that the other party is going to give you, what you purchased, or they may, the thing just may go sideways. But never give them your bank account information because you don't know who they are. That's the key here. Never give them your bank account information. Like I said before, the general rule now has to be assume it's a scam, assume there are a fraudster until proven otherwise. All right. Work job scams. You guys, I did a video about this one lady. Okay. So let's read through what they wrote first, and then we're going to talk about why this sucks. Okay. Victims, again, I think, this is just lazy on their part. I don't know what else to say. This is just lazy. Like, we're going to start 3 bullet points with the same thing. Victims provide, receive, or expect money related to a job they have online in which they believe they will be working from home. Fake jobs will include paperwork, payroll, services, and more. Yeah. Okay, let me tell you what this really looks like. Okay. So a lot of people got used to looking for, applying for, and getting work from home jobs when the pandemic was going on. It became the way that we operated because a lot of places were shut down. And so people were used to the idea of working from home. That's where the world was at that time. Well, scammers recognize this too. Okay. And so they started posting job opportunities that were work from home job opportunities. And they would go through the whole process. I did a video of this one lady, I think she was maybe in Ireland or something like that, but they took her through the application process, did like in some cases, here's the other thing. In some cases, they won't even do that. They'll just be like, "Hey," you'll get a text message. This is how bad some of them are. You'll get a text message saying, "Hey, we have an employment opportunity. We saw your resume on such and such. We think you would be a great fit. Are you interested? Click here." Okay, so don't click there. Do not click there. Don't ever click there. Okay. But then you have these other situations where you actually applied for a job that was work from home that you thought was legitimate. Okay. And they even schedule a phone call interview with you and get on the phone with you, ask you questions. They may even have a second round of supposed interviews with someone else. And then they say, I'm telling you, this last video, they went through hoops to get this to look legitimate. Then they say, "Hey, we're going to offer you the job." They send you a letter. They send you a letter. And they say, "Hey, we're now going to send you over to human resources. We're going to set you up with a call with them so that we can get all of your paperwork in place." Well, that's the problem right there, because it's at that point where they start to ask for information for direct deposit. They're asking for social security numbers, and you have never seen these people. You have no idea who was on the end of that phone call. Okay. So that's one way that they're getting your information. The other thing that they're doing is they're getting money from you. Now, let me tell you how this works. They will tell a person, "Hey, you're going to be working from home. Well, there's some things that we're going to need you to purchase. We may need to send you a check." And so they send you a check, and it turns out there's a problem with the check or something like that. And then they have you send money back to them because it's over the amount that it was supposed to be. Well, it turns out sometimes these checks are fraudulent. And now you have sent them back real legitimate money that they cash, they take, and they run off with. And now you're stuck with that fake check that you then later find out was a fraudulent check or an altered check or a stolen check. Is just no good. Let's just put it that way. It is no good. So you have to be really careful of what companies you're actually applying for with when it comes to these jobs, especially work from home jobs. So always make sure that you're having some sort of face to face interview with a person, whether it's a Zoom, whether it's FaceTime on your phone, something where you can see this other party and where you can do research on them before you give them any information about you, especially your financial information. So again, like I said here, Fifth Third Bank could do a better job at explaining what these scams look like. And this is a short list. This is a short list of scams. If I sat down and thought about it, I could probably come up with 10 more that they haven't touched. Loan scams, a scam where a victim believes they are obtaining a loan. Look, because I work as an attorney, and I work primarily with businesses, I get calls all the time. They're like, "Hey, do you need a small business loan?" Talking about me. "Hey, do your clients need a small business loan?" Well, I don't know who you people are. I have no idea who you people are. I used to get emails like that too, but I think I didn't open so many of them, they just go directly to spam now. I think they have been marked as spam so many times as junk email that I don't even see them anymore. But I get calls all the time. I get text messages all the time about small business loans. "Hey, we have you approved." I just hang up. As soon because I have to answer my phone for clients. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, don't answer your phone." I tell people that too. Yeah, don't answer your phone. Let it go to the voicemail. But as a business owner, I have to answer the phone. So when I'm answering the phone and they go down that line, I just hang up now. As a Southerner, it used to be very hard because you felt this need to be hospitable on the phone and to be nice and to be like, "I'm sorry." Uh-oh. Please try again. Whoops. That's me clicking something that I shouldn't have clicked. Um, but yeah, so now I just hang up. They say, "Hi, you've been approved for a small business loan." Click. Like, no, we're not even going to do that. I'm not doing that with you. So these loan scams, look out for those. These fake loans are typically found through social media and target people with poor credit. They often involve the customer giving out their banking credentials. What do I say? We can help get you a loan. We can help get you a loan so that you can pay off your credit cards. We can help refinance your house. All that kind of stuff. We can get you a loan for the small business that you want to start or expand. They tell you all that stuff. All you have to do is apply. We can go ahead and send you a link so that you can fill out an online application. And within 24 hours, you can hear whether or not you've got $150,000 that you can use for whatever purposes you need them for. Well, it doesn't matter because number one, you're never going to get the $150,000. And number two, after they get your banking information, they're going to be gone anyway. Okay, so that's how this stuff works. Refund scams, a scam in which a scammer pretends to be a legitimate company issuing a refund to one of its customers. The refund turns out to be the customer's own funds, which they send to the scammer unknowingly. Now, this one I haven't heard a whole lot of. Okay, I don't know where they got this one from. Yeah. Business email compromise. Scammers also attempt to scam people into sending them money intended for legitimate transactions and payments. They will communicate through email to pose as legitimate businesses, changing payment methods or accounts. Let me tell you, there is this one company, this poor company here in North Carolina. They have been targeted by scammers that claim to be that company. And I called up the company one day. I was like, there I got some emails that was supposedly from your company, and they were just like, we know all about it. And so, yeah. So, like I said before, there are a whole lot more of these scams out there. One I did recently had to do with a guy who thought that you know, it was a treasury letter. And so was saying he was going to be charged with a crime. There are people who have gotten jobs as another job scam. This one was different in terms of getting their information, where they're asking people to be mules, where they're saying, hey, we're going to send you packages and we want you to rewrap and deliver them someplace else. Which is typically stolen property. Okay. They're now using ride share companies, people who work for those companies as couriers to go pick up packages from people, things that have been stolen. It, it is a mess out there. It is just a messy world out there. So I'm telling you, keep your guard up because, like I said before, if you don't know for sure, assume it is a scam or a fraud until proven otherwise. All right, so they've got some things here. It says, share this information with your family and friends. Yeah, let's see what else they've got over here. Okay, so they've got a business account security checklist here. They've got their consumer scams guide. Then they have a couple of videos, and hopefully these videos are way better than some of these one-liners that they just put up here. But I want to go to this page with this Stay Secure, where they actually talk about these products that they have. And I've never used any of these products. I don't have a Fifth Third bank account. Yeah, and I'm going to look at some of this same information for other banks too, to just sort of break down some of the stuff that's going on. And part of why I'm so focused on the banks is because, number one, I think the banks could do a better job when people are coming in, because a lot of times people are coming into the banks to do these fraudulent transactions. Okay, the unwitting customer who does not know that they're being scammed. They're going to the bank, they're getting the cashier's check. They're going back to the bank, they're getting the cashier's check. They're going back to the bank again and getting the cashier's check. They're going back to the bank 10 times and getting wires. And the bank employee may be asking a question, but the bank employee can pull up the account and see all of these transactions that are going on. And so there has to be some sort of conversation that you then have with the customer that says, hey, I see that you are having another wire transfer this month. This is your seventh one for the month. We do want to point out to you that there has been a high increase of fraud. And usually it's a number of wire transfers. And here are some of the things that we like to talk to our customers about just to sort of make sure that you're protected. And it's just a conversation. They don't have to give up anything or say anything. And one of the things they can end with is, and we also have a a bank manager or whatever who can actually take 5 minutes with you right now to double check your account to make sure that there's nothing going on. Like the bank being more proactive when they see this stuff going on. The other thing that's been going on is some banks now are adding this option, or they may already have it, where you can add a trusted contact to the account so that when the bank person sees some weird stuff going on, the bank person has the authority to go ahead and contact that person because you have given the bank authority to contact that person when you sign that form saying, hey, here's my trusted contact that you can call when things look funny. So that's another thing that banks are doing. But we're definitely going to have to increase responsibility on both sides, not just the bank. I don't want to make it sound like I'm beating up the banks, but I do think banks could do a better job. But it's also in helping people understand what some of these scams look like, which is why I was just shooting down all the stuff that was on the Fifth Bank website because it's just horrible. Like they did not do a good job of explaining what those scams really look like in real life. They were using the same language again and again and again, and it just was not really helpful. So another thing to think about is, um, well, I think I forgot where I was going to go. Okay, so it's late. Obviously, I need to be doing something else like going to bed. So let's take a look at this Smart Shield security, what they have, and look at what it's. Oh, I know. Here's what I was going to say. The other reason it's so important is because what's happening is people are saying, hey, somebody hacked into my account, somebody stole my stuff. One of your people called me and had all this information about my account. So that's why I gave them my username and password. And the bank is saying, no, 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 that was on you. And so, no, we're not going to reimburse you, even though your liability, depending upon when you contact them and what involvement you had, your liability might is supposed, should be as low as $50 or $500. And yet they won't give you back the other 10,000 that was taken out of your account because they're saying, hey, you gave that other party your bank information and you're saying, but it was a scam. I didn't know. I wasn't giving them authority to do what they did. Okay. And so there's been this back and forth. So here you have the Smart Shield security or whatever this is that they have. Is it worth it? I don't know. But let's take a look at this and see what it is that they have here. So now I love this. Look at this. To report fraudulent or suspicious activity with your account, they have a phone number there. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 10 to 4 Eastern time. Now, if you guys understand how fraudsters and scammers work, do you think they only work Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern time? Do you think that they keep banking hours, or do you think that they're working around the clock trying to take people's money? I remember talking to someone a while back, and she ran into an issue with a whole lot of money in her account. And she was trying to call the bank, and it was like a Thursday afternoon or a Friday afternoon. I want to say it was a Friday afternoon, but it was late in the day. And she was trying to get in touch with them. And she was like, I could not get up with anybody in that fraud department. And by the time, I guess, whatever happened, she was telling me, she was like, I was not able to get up with them until Monday of the next week. So whatever bank this was, didn't even have Saturday fraud hours. This thing, I think this is another thing that needs to stop. Banks need to have a fraud department in place, somebody able to take those calls 24/7. Imagine if they were open and had the same kind of hours that the scammers and the fraudsters have. You would be able to do something a lot quicker and get in touch with somebody at the bank a lot quicker. But here, what is this? I mean, look at these hours. Can you believe this? This is crazy. I mean, I like that they got Saturday hours, but in the real world, This is not enough. It just is not enough. So it says to report activity on your card, follow the prompts to dispute a transaction or report a card lost or stolen for 24/7 service. But the other stuff has a limited time on it. Like, I'm telling you, that's yeah, that's something that needs to be changed. And then they've got some information there where you can report other things. Okay, so here's this supposed protection that they have, and I shouldn't say supposed. I'm sure they have some protection. This is keeping you alert, 24/7 monitoring, threat blocking, live support. Okay, some of that I understand what it means, some of that I don't. Like, what is threat blocking? Fixing problems before they become problems. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Who wrote that? That is not helpful. I don't know what that means. Yeah. All right, so here's what you get with this. You have access to your Smart Shield dashboard. From the moment you open your fifth third account, you're protected with complimentary. So it doesn't look like you have to pay extra for this. Okay. To help keep you and your information secure, we'll share all we do to protect you and ways you can protect yourself. So they have this app that you can use. How we help you. So here's what you get with this. Okay. This is the free stuff. Here's what you get. This is 24/7 monitoring, threat blocks, and live support. Okay, so what does the 24/7 monitoring entail? What are you monitoring on the account? Again, like I said before, you can go in most banks and put alerts on your phone that say, I want an alert every time there's a deposit over X, or every time there's a transaction over $300, over $500, over $100. Okay, so most banks already have that. The 24/7 monitoring, so what is that? We want to know what that is. Maybe that's included. Card tracker, so you know exactly when your new card is coming. Okay, that's a good thing. Check tracking, so you can keep tabs on the delivery of your new checks. Okay. Here's another thing that people can do that I've heard people say in the past, and I've heard banks say this. Just tell the bank you'll come to the bank and pick them up. You don't have to have them mailed to your house at some banks. You can tell the bank, I'm going to come pick them up. So that's an option also. Educational resources to test and build your knowledge. Well, that's good. The only problem is a lot of people don't actually go to their bank website and look for that kind of stuff. Like I said before, they're going to their website to check their account balance, okay, to see what kind of transactions have gone through. Maybe they are moving some money around, like paying a credit card or moving money from money market to savings to checking to back. I don't know, whatever, paying off a car loan or something like that, paying that monthly bill, or maybe even applying for a loan online. So those are some things that, people are already doing. I just don't hear people sitting around saying, you know what, I think today I'm going to spend about 3 hours looking at the educational resources to test and build my knowledge. I think it's a really good idea. I'm glad that they have it. I'm glad that they have it. So I'm not going to shoot it down too much. All right, so let's see what the latest comment is that we just had pop up. Says, I went through some mock bank scam stuff months ago. Hope never again. Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, I spend so much time looking at this stuff sometimes, and my daughter hears some of it, and she's just like, you got me scared. She goes, you got me scared. And she was recently on a trip, and I reminded her, I was like, keep your eyes and ears open. And it's interesting because you really have to tell people that now. Like, you're in a place, it's a social environment. You have to keep your eye on what you're eating and what you're drinking. And you can't trust, who's passing a drink or passing a plate. You don't know. I mean, you can't even trust the person that you're with. And I say that in terms of thinking about the lady who, what, is she in Paris? She's in France. The one whose husband, you know, gave her something that put her out so that he could then bring other people in. Like, people are just doing weird things now. They've always done weird things, but it just seems like because of the nature of our ability to be able to share this, it's a lot to constantly hear about people who have gotten caught up in some of these things, and people losing their homes, people losing their life savings, people who, after some of these things have happened to them, that they have taken very desperate measures. And that's how bad it's been sometimes. And so it can be really hard for me to do some of these videos a lot and then just, yeah, it's not a good feeling. So I hope I'm sharing information. I hope people will look at some of these educational resources that are up here. Now let's talk about Zelle. Zelle. Okay, so first of all, most of you probably know by now that some of the big banks got together and they said, "Hey, look at what Cash App is doing over there. Cash App is making money. We need to have our own cash transaction platform so that we can make money too." Okay, so that's essentially what happened. So they came together and they created Zelle. Well, the thing about some of these is really and truly, you should only be using this for people that you already know, friends and family, people who you already have a connection to. Like, I know that person, I'm going to Zelle some money to that person. Not somebody texted me something and said that owe the IRS and that I better Zelle them the money within 24 hours or I'm going to jail. So first of all, the government's not going to be sending you some text saying send them some money by via Zelle in the next 24 hours or you're going to jail. But people don't understand that, first of all, especially when it's coming from the government, because people are fearful of the government, of the IRS. They're like, well, wait a second, I don't want to get into any trouble. So that's how some of this happens. But Zelle has had so much fraud related to it that you now have some banks, some financial institutions that will not take part in Zelle transactions. So you try to go to your bank and say, oh, well, I want to Zelle from my bank account. You go try to pull up your bank and your bank is not listed because your bank is just like, no, there's been too much fraud and we're just not going to go there with this. So you have to be really careful about these Zelle transactions because usually that's one of the platforms that a lot of these fraudsters and scammers are using. Let's just go ahead and be honest. It is one of those. All right, so then they say they have this identity alert. Not sure what that looks like. They've got a footnote there. And again, if this is something that you would be interested in, then you would have to have a conversation with your bank about this stuff. Like, what is this stuff? What does this stuff mean? And then they have the top fraud schemes. And remember, I just went through some of those. Let's see what they pulled up. Okay, and look at what they pulled up. Payment scams, romance scams, okay, tech investment, crypto is a lot. People trying to make money now. Then you have the bank imposter and the phishing. And I would agree. These are the ones that I hear the most about. Some of the other ones are just crazy. The whole putting somebody's pool, they have a pool in the backyard or they have a house and you probably heard this, they put the house for rent on Craigslist and they collect the security deposit and the person shows up at the house to rent the house and the homeowner's like, what are you talking about? My house is not for rent. I own my house. I live here. So no, it is not available for rent. So you have all of these just scams that are out there. But I will say that most of the ones that I hear and see are usually these ones listed here. Some of these payment scams, bank imposter, and spoofing. Spoofing. Let me stop and talk about spoofing for a second because this is what gets people too. The phone will ring and it will show a number. This happened. I did a video on this. This happened. It will show a number and it will have your bank up there. And this woman in one of the videos said, I knew it was the bank because that is their number. But guess what? It was not her bank. It was an imposter. And they were able to make it look like it was her bank and that it was that bank's customer service. It all matched. And so she thought it was legitimate and she gave them her information. So you have to be, you cannot assume that just because the phone says that's who it is, that that's who it is. Get up, get your keys, get your wallet, go get in the car, and drive over to the bank. I don't know how else to say this, but you cannot trust what it says on the phone. You have to go over there in person, or if you can't do that, because I get it, sometimes you can't leave right then you hang up with them or don't answer that and you call them yourself. You go online to your bank account yourself, independent of whoever that was on the phone. Like, don't even deal with them. We don't know who they are. We're going to assume that they're a scammer or a fraudster. Assume that and do your own independent calls or go over there. So, yeah, so we have those. So, let's go back to this stuff that they have because guess what? They've got some more information here. And then I want to go to the page where they have the one that you can buy. And of course, now I can't even find it. All right, let's see if we can go back to the other page and see if I can find what they're selling because they have a whole nother plan that they're selling. And maybe if I scroll down, I can find it. That's the only thing about being live. You're like, where is the stuff? Let me see if this one will take me there. No, that looks like that's the same thing. Yeah, that looks like that's the same thing. I'm probably just missing it somewhere. Vulnerability disclosure program. All right, so take advantage of Fifth Third Identity Alert Solutions. This is the page. All right, let's scroll down here. And so they've got some more information here. Look what, so threat blocking. Look at this. Prevent unauthorized access with two-factor identification, biometric logins, and custom encryption. You guys, let me tell you, none of this stuff is foolproof. This one lady, she had two-factor identification. She had everything going to her phone. And guess what the scammer did? The scammer was able to get her cell phone provider to transfer like her account to them. So then when the two-factor authorization came for her for her bank, it went to them. Like it was the craziest thing. She was so upset because she couldn't even access her own bank account information because it was being sent to the scammers. I'm telling you, like I said before, it is not a matter of if you're going to be scammed or experience fraud or a data breach. It is just a matter of when. All right, so it says here they've got 2 levels of Fifth Third Identity Alert, our end-to-end comprehensive identity protection to shield you from the dark web. Should just say from like bad people. Choose the package that best fits your needs. So, all right. They have just the Fifth Third Identity Alert, and then they have the Fifth Third Identity Alert Premium. Look at the amount of protection that you get. Okay, so you've got daily credit monitoring, 1 bureau or 3 bureaus, and yeah, okay, I'll just stop there. Monthly credit monitoring, you got Social Security monitoring, and look, so for the premium version, you get protection for not just you, but for your children too. And they've got some footnotes here. And so this is always the part that you want to know. Like, what exactly does this mean? If this is something you're interested in, you have to get on the phone with these people and you're like, what does it mean that there's Social Security monitoring? What does that look like? And then, oh, and I want to say, let me scroll down because they were actually talking about monitoring chat rooms to see if your Social Security number was coming up. I'll see if I can find that again. Okay, identity theft insurance, $25,000. $25,000 is not a lot of money. It is not a lot of money. Let me go ahead and tell you. Some of the videos that I've done, I told you I just did one with, I think her name was Erica. Erica lost almost $1 million. Chester, I did Chester earlier today. Chester lost almost $200,000. Now, those were not identity theft issues. They were, regular old frauds and scams, but that's the kind of money we're talking about here. We're not talking about, coins. We're talking about things that fold. And so $25,000 does not sound like a lot of money. And the question though is, what are you getting with this identity theft? And so I'm telling you now that a lot of this is a result of scams and fraud. So where is the coverage here for that? That is the question I would want to know if I were considering purchasing any of this, like the Social Security monitoring, great. Monthly crediting monitoring, great. But it's typically, these imposter transactions and the pig butchering and the romance scams and the tech support scams. Like, though, that's the stuff that's getting a lot of people. And even home title, where they're going and doing fake mortgages on people. So where is that here? I mean, and look at this. Think about this. This is Social Security monitoring. That's just monitoring. That's not telling you that we're going to pay something out if something happens because they got your Social Security number. Okay. That's here under the identity theft insurance. And so be mindful of what it is that you're actually paying for $7 a month and for $10 a month. Okay. So they've got price with a fifth, third checking or express banking account. So if you've got an account with them, you can get the regular for 7, you can get this for 10. And it just depends on what kind of account you have. But again, you'd have to go through these terms and conditions, the summary of insurance benefits to find out exactly what it is you are getting. Because it could be that, yes, you're getting some protection, but most of what you really need is not covered. And so you actually have to go through this. And come on, we all know that most of the time we don't read all of this. But if you're going to spend money on this, if you're going to go for this 1 million in protection, take the time to read through the terms and conditions and the summary of insurance benefits. So that sort of wraps up. Look, and I haven't even gone through all of the stuff up here. I mean, like, this is false, depending upon when you're talking about, but 3 questions, I hope you have more questions than that. Yeah. So they've got a lot of information up here, elder fraud, how to recognize common bank fraud tactics. So this is really good. There's information there. The problem is a lot of times people are not using it. What's happening is these frauds and these scams are taking place, and people are not saying, well, let me go to my bank's website to see if there's some information on this, like the one with Chester who got the letter from the US Treasury that said he was charged with with some sort of criminal action. No, he's all unnerved at this point. His blood pressure is rising. He's starting to sweat because he's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go to jail. I didn't do anything. What is this about? I don't even understand what this is. And in his case, I read through a portion of the letter and the letter didn't even make sense. So if you're unnerved and you're skimming through it and you don't know what to do, you're probably not coming to this website to go through all of this and to find something up here that can help you figure this out, which is why I said, if people start asking you for money, if people start asking you for money, go to your bank and have a conversation with your bank. Let them know what this transaction looks like. Hey, these people sent me this letter. Can you take a look at this letter and help me figure out if this is something? You know, a lot of times I get it. We don't want to do that. We're concerned about, you know, looking like we don't have it all together, right? We don't know what we're doing. Sometimes we're just afraid to ask for help. So it can be really tricky. But that's it for Fifth Third Bank. Um, yeah, and there's a whole lot more here, but that just sort of gets us started. And like I said before, even if you go to the page that talks about some of the scams and frauds, I don't think they provide you with anywhere near the kind of information that they should be providing. They could do a better job of actually describing what some of this fraud looks like, what scammers say to you, how they target you, some of the red flags that you should be looking for. They don't really talk about those. I definitely think they should do a much better job. So the one tip that I want you to walk away with from this is my new rule now, my new rule. And that is, like I said before, it's not a matter of if you're going to experience fraud or a scam or a data breach. It is only a matter of when. And so the new rule has to be treat everything as if it's a scam or a fraud until you prove it otherwise. All right. So that's it. Thank you for joining. Like I said before, it's been a long time since I have done a live. It's September. Last time I did one was July. So glad to be back. We'll see how this goes. And don't forget to like the video if you learned a few things. And don't forget to subscribe. Mwah. Peace.